Welcome back to the channel for another tactical preview of Bournemouth's games. Today I'm joined by maybe Bray. Make sure you check him out on Twitter and check out his YouTube for Forest Matchday vlogs. But yeah, today we're going to be previewing the match, obviously, and I think it'll be a good one, won't it? Two very, very good sides. If we just chat quickly about the recent form, winning 7 out of your last 8 in the league, 4 clean sheets. I mean, how good are you?
We have been exceptional recently. It's an absolute joy to be a Forest fan right now. You just mentioned the clean sheets. This is quite easily the best defence that I've seen at my time, like during my time supporting Forest. It's not a massively high bar, to be fair, because we're in the Championship for most of it. But no, we're just red hot at the minute, and it really is. It's a joy to be a Forest fan at the second.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the same for us at the moment. We're 10 unbeaten in the league, which is smashing our old record out the park. That win against Forest, not Forest, your Forest, that win against Newcastle, winning 4-1, and they were on, what was it, like a 9-game winning streak in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what gives me confidence going into this weekend, that we can beat other teams that are on hot form. But as we'll get into the points, it won't be easy at all. Let's start on the positives for Bournemouth at least, so people don't switch off the video right now. But your backup, I mean, you don't really have a backup striker, do you? Is Awani fit or?
We have, I say, not no real backup striker. Not to be disrespectful to Taiwo Awoniyi, but he's just, since his most recent injury and since he got plagued with those injuries, he's just not been the same player, and it's really quite sad to see, because he's been a great servant to the club in 2023 for that, like, April, May, that run of goals. He effectively kept us up on his own.
Hmm.
With that, his goals absolutely kept us up in our first season in the Premier League, but he's just not. I don't know. He just doesn't really offer any threat anymore, and the only times when he comes on, it's effectively to make sure that Chris Wood doesn't get injured. He doesn't. He
Yeah,
doesn't. He scored against Wolves, effectively an open goal from about 2 yards. It was a tap in, but just he's not got the pace anymore. He runs like he's trying to escape a paper bag. I've got a lot of respect for him for what he's done for the club, but at the minute, once Wood comes off, then he's not really a proper alternative, and he certainly won't provide the threat that Wood can.
yeah, but I mean, like Chris Wood's obviously really good. Do you find that you ever do need someone off the bench to replace him? Is it just a fitness thing, or like do you tactically sometimes feel like you need an alternative to Wood?
Well, it's not necessarily that we need an alternative to Wood. I think that Nuno, since coming in, has been really fond of using his substitutes to
Okay.
keep the game fresh, and or he always uses his 5 substitutes. I can't think of a game, certainly not this season for us, where he's not used all 5 subs. He loves keeping it fresh, and will always be making changes on the wing or in midfield to just keep things running and keep things going. And that's really the only position that we have right now where we don't have someone who can, come off the bench to keep the energy up. If, say, Chris Wood's done a lot of running around and he's a bit tired towards the end of it, and it means that there's there's a lot of minutes in Chris Wood's legs right now, and for a player who's 33 years old, you start to worry a little bit that if his if he gets an injury because of all of those minutes that he's playing, if he was to just play for 90 every single game, then Taiwo just can't replace him anymore, and that is quite a worry.
Do you think you'll dip into the market this January or not?
Well, I'd hope so. That was probably my priority in my mind, obviously, other than the contract extensions for some of our better players whose contracts expire soon. I think that striker was my biggest priority because, well, as I said, I don't think that Awoniyi is really good enough to be a regular Premier League backup, because these subs, they're coming on every single game. It's not like they're coming on once every couple of games just when you've got nothing left. He's coming on every single game, and he's just not really offering anything. So I think that to get a backup striker is really, really necessary for us this window, and I'd be a bit worried if we don't.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So if we see Chris Wood going off the pitch, we can relax a little bit for the last however
Well,
long.
that's
Back into the midfield. So Anderson is your first sort of central midfielder, and then you have two good midfielders here who can partner him. Talk to me about their strengths and weaknesses.
well. Ryan Yates he's never been technically the best footballer. He's never gonna dribble past a load of players or whatever. Everyone just sort of thinks of him as being a thug. He is more than that, but that's his that thuggery is his job really. In the team, he's very physical. He makes a lot of challenges. He wins the ball an awful lot. Ryan Yates. He's a massive captain sort of figure on the pitch. Nicholas Dominguez does quite a similar job, but he doesn't do the Yates job like effectively. We want a breaker next to Elliot Anderson because of how much Elliot Anderson likes get forward. We need someone to break up the play in the middle. And Nicholas Dominguez, he can run for days. His fitness is fantastic. He can run forever, but I don't know, he doesn't quite bring the same physicality game that Yates does. But Dominguez is technically a much better footballer. So you can't really it's a really hard to pick between the pair of them because they do sort of similar jobs, but if you play Yates, then you miss that sort of technical ability in midfield. But I
Yeah,
think that you gain a little bit more from that sort of being a little bit better as a breaker and having that captain figure on the pitch. But with Dominguez, there's a lot more sort of movement, and he can run a team's midfield by himself. He can just knacker everyone in the opposition midfield effectively.
yeah.
But
I think
mm,
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting this weekend because our midfield, in my opinion, is. I mean, the whole team's strong, but our midfield I do love. And you've got Ryan Christie, and it'll be Tyler Adams this weekend with Lewis Cook at right back. So I think the midfield battle will be a really big one there. And I'm not really sure who you should play, Yates or Dominguez, because if you looked at our game against Newcastle, it was such a physical battle in midfield. Like there was tackles flying everywhere, cards coming out left, right, and centre. Um, so in that respect, you might want Yates, but we're such a pressing like machine and system that perhaps Dominguez is a better to sort of escape that press and transition. Do you think?
see, I think that we don't really focus on transition with that player because the player who's next to Anderson, because we'll see Anderson and Gibbs White are pretty much the players who always start these transitions.
Okay.
Yates is just win the ball back and then pass it to Anderson, or Dominguez is
Uh,
win the ball back and then pass it to Anderson. So who did you say who's going to be in midfield with Christie?
Tyler Adams.
Tyler Adams. So I don't know that much about Tyler Adams. I seem to think that your fans rate him.
He was,
It's
yeah, he's been very good when he's been fit. So
see, it's really a hard one to sort of to call because there's so much I can guarantee you will see both Yates and Dominguez at some point. It's just
yeah,
who starts and who finishes really
yeah.
because it could very happily be either.
Yep. And then just on the final point here, momentum and confidence. I mean, we saw it against Saints. That second half was coming up all Southampton. You're 3 goals up. It ended up 3-2. You could have bottled it right at the end there with Ole Ayner's goal line clearance. Where do you think this problem stems from?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much of a problem it really is, but I was sort of a little bit worried with it because we've not been in a position like that really this season where we've been desperately clinging on. I mean, we weren't clinging on that desperately to our draw against Liverpool,
Yeah.
and we were completely under the cosh for those entire 12 minutes of injury time. I think that I don't know. We certainly looked more like conceding another one than scoring another one, and I feel like everything sort of went against us that game. And since we've not had that much experience this season, because we've been so good of being properly up against it, then it makes me wonder. Go two. If we were to say go 2-0 up at Bournemouth, which would be a fantastic result, and then we concede one, then what happens from there? It's
Yeah.
I've see generally whenever Morato comes on, it's closing time. That's fine, and that's we're usually superb defensively like that. But I don't know that the end of that game yesterday just it gives me that little sort of shake. I guess worries me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we love to score late. We've had a lot of comebacks this season. We're a side that, like, out of possession will very much like press you and win the ball back. And like, we do sort of come into our own in the last like 15 minutes. I've got a stat here. We've scored the most in the league in the last 15 minutes of matches. So you're probably feeling a bit more nervous for this weekend after hearing that. And yeah, that is when we really turn things on. So I think even if you do go a goal up, you'll be all right. Our problem is when we go a goal up, because then we don't really know how to play. Because yeah, we can't like hold. We're not possession side, so we won't like control the game and the tempo in that way. So when we are a goal up, it doesn't really suit our style. We prefer to be a goal down and then come at you and sort of win that ball and score those goals. But we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be an interesting match because both sides are. I don't know. You're not very possession dominant, are you?
I think we're probably the least possession dominant side in the league, but once we get the ball, we are lethal. We don't waste time. It's you lose the ball in your attacking third, and it will result in a shot on goal. That's not negotiable. That will happen in just about every time you lose the ball in that attacking third, and that's I think that transition, that consistent broken up by Dominguez or Yates, given to Anderson or Gibbs White, and then given to a winger, it always results in a shot on goal. That's
Yeah.
we are scary to play against when we break like that, and that's
Yeah. Well,
effectively how we play the game.
we're literally going to get onto that now as we move into the section of how Forest can win this match. And yeah, literally, as you talk about the break, counter-attacking football, that's how you play. That's how you get your goals. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit more?
We'll see. Our defense has been fantastic, and that's another point which I think you're going to cover a little bit later. But we love to win the ball, and then as soon as it turns over, you don't have any time to recover or to breathe. We're straight on you. And you notice that I think that there's a stat that says that we're one of the least pressing teams like in the league. Like we'll just let you come on to us because what we do is we'll let you come on to us. Then as soon as you lose the ball, everyone's ready to go. There's nobody been like running back or running anywhere or that. Everyone can put all of their energy into bombing forward the second that you lose the ball. And I think that's one of the best things that Nuno's really implemented because there's so many teams that just can't cope with that because they'll put so much energy into pressing and doing this and doing that. But really, when we've got our back four and then the two in front of them of Anderson and then whoever's with him, then effectively you can get as close as you like. You're not going to get past them if you've just got the ball. There's no unless you've got like a crazy star quality player who can dribble through them, which we've not really seen yet. We just win that ball when you're on the attack and then straightforward, everyone sprinting, putting everything into it, and then whenever we don't have the ball, it's effectively just our recovery time. So it's almost like I suppose the way that we play games is almost like like a training game, if you will. It's when you don't have the ball versus when you do have the ball are so different. And it's the sitting in is what allows us to attack so rapidly.
Yeah, and I think that'll be really interesting this weekend. As I say, we're both like counter-attacking direct teams, and I think this game will be end to end. I think it'll be tiring. I think it could be decided in the latter stages of the game, and I'm not really sure which way it's going to go because it might just come down to who takes their chances. And I'll come onto it in a bit. Us without a striker, you might be the one that's a bit more clinical and takes the 3 points. Touch point again there, your defense, like it's just so good. Again, we'll compare it to our defense as well, but You've got a stat here. Do you want to say?
When Morato's come on, when we're ahead, I believe we've conceded 2 goals. This is in about 14 times that he's come on when we've been leading. We've conceded 2 goals. One of those was a header from a corner. Well, both of them were headers from corners, actually. I think that we conceded one against Man City when we were already losing. I'm not really sure why we brought him on, because we brought him on at half time at Man City away when we were already losing, and we conceded another one.
Yeah.
But we've not they've when we've been winning and they've come on, or drawing and they've come on, then they've not conceded a single open play goal when they're playing as a three, and that's
That,
it's quite a stat, isn't it? Because it'll tend to come on about like 70 odd minutes, and so this is like half an hour to every game. So yeah, it's it's quite a stat. Our defense has been incredible this season. We've had a lot of plaudits, even from like Sky and stuff, who usually hate us, and just those general media places, and they've all been massively applauding the likes of Murillo and Milenkovic. I've seen a lot of hype for Ola as well, which is really nice.
yeah.
And yeah, they're just fantastic. Murillo and Milenkovic as well. They partner each other so well. They've they're everything that you want in a centre back pairing. Really, they I don't know. You've got your, well, obviously you don't necessarily want a smaller player like Murillo inherently in your back four, but the technical ability, the understanding of the game, the reading of the game, the pace that he's got as well, uh, he's brilliant. Milenkovic is just an old school kick it, head it, do anything you want. You're not going to get past him because he's 6'5", massive Serbian.
Yeah.
You just don't get you just don't get past those, and they go together so well. And I've just been so
Yeah.
proud of seeing these defenders who love to defend. Really,
Yeah. And I think that will tie in well with our injuries, because we obviously have no striker, but also the fact that like we did have Evan Olsen, who's like 6'1", I think, and like he probably would have been able to compete a bit more for crosses and things like that. Now we've got Dango Atara playing as like our makeshift striker, who I've liked, and I think he's done well, like as someone that's come in who isn't a striker. But in a game like this against two centre backs who are so good, their positioning is going to be so good. Their sort of ability to just dominate him physically, like he's not going to win any crosses, is he? I think this is going to be very difficult for Dango, and I think that could affect our whole team just in terms of how we transition up the pitch and then getting the balls into the box. Are your centre backs quite quick as well? Or
very quick, especially
yeah,
Murillo. Murillo is rapid, and well, yeah, he is. He is so fast. There's been several times when an attacker has been through on goal, and he's just sprinted back and covered it. The amount of last ditch tackles, goal line clearances he's made have been brilliant, and they're all really down to his reading of the game and his pace. Nikola
yeah,
Milenkovic, it's not like he's not slow either. He's just not as quick as Murillo, but it's like there's nothing wrong with Milenkovic at all.
yeah. Because that was against Newcastle. That's how we got like a lot of our goals, because they had Dan Burn and Botman at centre backs, and we really just exposed that lack of pace. And it's like especially Clivo is just so quick, and we just hit them so quickly, such high energy. But if we're not going to be able to do that with your centre back partnership, that's going to be a bit difficult, especially with no striker. You'd think our wingers is where we're going to hit you, but probably not going to be able to do that with speedy centre backs. So it's going to be a tight game, I think. Two very good teams. What is your score prediction?
Absolutely. My score prediction, I think that I'm going into this game thinking this is one that we just can't lose. We cannot lose this game. But I don't know. I feel like, especially with your performance against Newcastle, I feel like you're going to be right up for it. There's also question marks over the fitness of Callum Hudson-Odoi. He went off injured against Southampton, so we don't know if he's going to miss that game. He was the difference.
Okay.
I say the difference maker. He scored the equaliser. Or was it the opener? I don't remember. Against you last season. He definitely scored away against you last season.
Yeah.
But I reckon it'll be a very tight 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I think for me, it's very difficult, and it depends what Bournemouth shows up on the day. But I won't copy you there. I'll go. But the defenses are so good. Tell you what, I'll go for a 0-0 because I think we're going to find it very hard to score past you.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to predict a draw at least. So yeah, I'll go for a 0-0 there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you comment below your score prediction. Subscribe, like, check out maybe Bray's stuff. I'm going to put it down in the description so you can just click and get straight onto it. And we'll catch you guys later. Up the cherries.